Hello, I'm Shannon Shipman, Purdue Extension, Ohio County Health and Human Sciences and 4-H Youth Development Educator. And with me is our public health intern from the University of Indianapolis, Jessica Coombs. And we're here to talk to you today about drug use among our youth as well as our farmers, and to even know some of the things to look for that we think might just be everyday items but can actually hide drugs, and how easily attainable those things are for kids to purchase these days. So unfortunately, in regards to drugs, there's about 3.6 million high school and middle school age youth who are currently using e-cigarettes right now. That's the new buzz, that's the new hot thing to be doing, and they're highly addictive. And that's one of those gateway behaviors that can introduce kids into stronger, more potent drugs, as well as alcohol abuses and things like that. So Jess, if you are concerned about if you wonder what some signs are that your child might be using, your grandchild might be using, what would some of those signs be?
So some signs of drug, alcohol abuse, any kind of substance abuse would be changes in friends, maybe changes in behavior. If they were a sports kid and then all of a sudden they don't like that sport anymore, that would be a warning sign. Any kind of changes in their normal, everyday lifestyle is definitely a red flag.
Okay. So, if you have a grandchild that's really into sports and all of a sudden their interest completely stops, something else to even think about is sudden weight loss or sudden weight gain. That can be indicative of abuse of some type of dietary pill, or even
a depression or
anxiety, or even actually a mental illness of anorexia or bulimia as well. So anyway, we all know that drugs, though, do have a lot of effects on a young person's brain as it's developing. The young person's brain does not reach full maturity or capacity until age 25. And so when you start to use drugs at a young age, the brain never really catches back up. So basically, if they started using drugs at age 15, you're gonna be a 30-year-old with kind of like a 15-year-old mindset. And so unfortunately, drugs have a huge impact on brain development as well as reducing impulse control. So kids that are doing drugs, if they're on something, they might be more likely to try a behavior that they wouldn't normally do, such as couch surfing, which is one of the new things that's going on right now, or any one of those challenges that you might see on TikTok. So the other thing about drugs in youth is that by using them, and especially even drugs as simple as nicotine, which are in a cigarette, those can actually increase chances for anxiety, mood disorders. It increases their ability to have a more hard time paying attention to class or what's going on, and it can even lead to depression. So the drug use that's happening with our youth these days is going to have a long-term ramification as they get older, because one, their brains aren't fully developed when they started using, and two, these are all lifelong things that are going to affect how they work in the future, how they attend college in the future or trade school, and how their future ends up developing because of these choices that they're making now. So with that, Jess, let's also talk a little bit about what it means when people become dependent on a drug. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so a substance dependency is something that you couldn't go without. So if you're a pop drinker and you get that craving for a Coke or something like that, that's a really little example. Or if you're a coffee drinker, if you need that every day, that is a very small example of what somebody on drugs would feel like. They become dependent on that for a normal function in their daily life.
Gotcha. So when they become addicted, it means they build up that tolerance. So when they first originally tried it might have just taken a little bit to get that desired effect. But then as they continue to use, that tolerance built, and now they have to use copious amounts to get the desired effect that they're looking for, to achieve that high.
Yes.
Which is scary, because that can tend to lead to possible overdose issues, anything like that. And we've all seen and heard of people who have overdosed on heroin and things like that are now in our communities, fentanyl, all those kinds of things. So it's really becoming a problem, and it's not just young people it's affecting all aspects of life, all socioeconomic statuses, and it's even affecting all ages as well. But one group that it's also having an impact on is our American farmer. Farmers are facing a lot of challenges right now with things that are just out of their control. Price commodities, the weather, you name it. you know, the fluctuation in markets, all of those kind of things. They're just out of their, COVID, exactly. That are just out of their control and they're having a hard time coping, and so some might result to prescription opioids or whatever. Then they don't have the resources to move past that addiction, and then it's just like an endless cycle. Something else that's really hard on farmers that may trend them towards an opioid addiction would also be the agrarian imperative, where because prices are so bad, the economy's taken such a hit because of COVID, they don't want to be that last generation to farm. That is so important, and they don't want to have that hanging on their shoulders that they're the ones that lost the farm. So that agrarian imperative can also be a really big component into what starts an addiction problem in regards to opioids, in regards to juuling, in regards to alcohol abuse, any one of those. So Jess and I, we have put together what we're hoping looks like a very productive office center for a young person.
Little
Just
table here.
We got a laptop, got to comb their hair,
Water.
we got markers here so they can highlight things. They were maybe being really nice and clean and had their pledge. They were dusting and making sure their keyboard was nice and clean. They've had a snack. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of these things, and then we're going to talk to you about how some of these normal everyday things can totally hide things that are completely unsafe or inappropriate for our youth, and things that we need to be aware of and how we can spot them in our homes of our children and of our grandchildren.
So one of the things that I thought was actually very interesting was this looks like a very normal water bottle, but if you pop open the top, it actually has a secret compartment on the inside. So this is another thing that would definitely easily hide any kind of paraphernalia or drugs or anything that your kid or loved one may want to be hiding from you. So definitely something that you want to be looking at if you suspect anything. Fun little trick for this one too. It's the same kind of thing. It looks like a Sharpie marker, but you can undo it and it doesn't have anything on the inside. So these are really some sneaky ways that people can hide maybe some of the habits that they have. So definitely things to be aware of, like as a parent or a loved one, when you're suspicious of someone maybe using, definitely look at some things like this and see if there is something maybe they ordered online that could have hid something from you. All right, so one other thing that we have here is, it looks like a normal can of SpaghettiOs, but if we flip it over and we pop off the little seal here, then there's a compartment on the inside, and we hid a 5-hour energy inside here, but it's actually a pretty big space, so it's definitely something you want to be aware of as a parent or a loved one, and making sure that you're checking things like this that could hide any paraphernalia. We don't have anything hidden in this one, but a lot of times people who use something that may have like a more potent smell, so like marijuana, will have a lot of things that would maybe mask the smell, like a lotion or any kind of like spray or incense. So definitely something that you want to be aware of as well. And then our last thing here for my little segment is our mouse. And you actually just pull that apart. And this is actually a scale to weigh drugs on, which is pretty insane because it definitely looks like a normal mouse, and I'll show you. It just slides back on. We have it plugged into our computer, but yeah, very, very crazy. So Shannon is going to show the next 5 things here.
Okay, so Jess just showed you just a few random things that can be around your grandchild's room or your son or daughter's room that might be able to hide things that they don't want you to see, whether it's money, drugs, whatever. Something else that we found that's a neat product that is available on the internet these days is a hairbrush. You can comb your hair and look fabulous, but you can also hide whatever you want to in this little compartment right here. So never thought that something like that would be so popular, but it is. Another thing too, looks like a good old can of Coca-Cola. You can twist off the top. There's a compartment in there for you to hide, or for your child or grandchild to hide money, pills, whatever their case may be. Looks like an ordinary tube of chapstick, but if you open it up, compartment in here as well, the kids can hide diet pills, anything like that to get away with hiding something. And something just as simple as a little tube of chapstick. Now, we've also got over here a dictionary. Granted, most kids these days are going to be looking on their phone to find a word or using, a dictionary app or whatever. But in case you do still have an old school dictionary like this can be opened up. There's a key that goes to it to where paraphernalia can be hidden in here as well. And it basically just looks like they're using a dictionary. And then lastly, something as inconspicuous as pledge, they could be saying, oh yes, I've just cleaned my computer, I'm cleaning my work area because it's a mess. And yeah, most kids probably are really cleaning their work area. However, this can be inhaled and used as an inhalant to get high, which can also result in the killing of brain cells, even death, if too much is inhaled at one time. So as you can see, these are just things that are simple items that we have around the house that look exactly like the everyday items that we use, but they are very inconspicuous. And so as parents, grandparents, spouses, all of that, we need to be cognizant of these items being available and how they can have a detrimental impact on our family due to the secrecy that they can cause and also just due to the dangers that can be hidden in them. So as we address, the concerns of drug abuse and issues amongst youth, adults, our American farmers, all of those people here in the United States that are affected by this in one way or another, we want to make sure that that there are other resources that you can tap into to learn more and to get some questions answered. So of course you can always go to Purdue or extension.purdue.edu and check out your local extension office and see what they have to offer. But Purdue University also has a website in regards to Purdue Extension and how we are addressing the opioid crisis across the state of Indiana. And that website is, Jess, would you mind going ahead and reading that off for them?
Yeah, .purdue.edu/opioids/.
So you can go ahead and check out that website as well. Something else just to be thinking about in regards to the opioid crisis across the state as well as drug usage among our youth and families is that a lot of times it has a lot to do with mental health. So if you do have questions about mental health or would like to take a first aid for mental health class, you can always check out that information as well on extension.purdue.edu.